Hello and welcome everyone to the world famous Adventurers Club of Los Angeles. My name is Andrew Medina. I am member number 1212 and I'm so glad to be your host for the evening. We got another great program coming at you tonight. I'm joined by the one and only Kate Cooper-Jensen to talk about her adventures in skydiving. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Kate, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is exciting. It's a thrill.
Now, Kate, you've done something like over 14,000 jumps in your career,
closer
right?
to 16,000, actually.
16,000, closer to 16,000
who
jumps.
Counts? Yeah.
You're in the Skydiving Hall of Fame. You've done multiple world records, both with men and women, and just women alone.
Mm-hmm.
In relation to all of those, how nervous were you to do this talk tonight?
This is definitely worse. But when I found out that it was a one-on-one as opposed to a prepared PowerPoint presentation thing, I relaxed because one of my superpowers, and you'll find this out, is talking. Perfect. So I'm good at this.
Excellent. So I want to start off by getting to know you. What is your history? What's your background? And what did your family think when you said, "I want to jump out of the plane"?
Well, you're assuming they knew. To go back, the Wayback Machine,
Mm-hmm.
I made my first jump when I was 17 years old. I was attending University East Coast, the College of William and Mary,
Sure.
and they had this thing where you could jump out of an airplane. And I, not being stupid, I knew that beyond a shadow of a doubt that I would be forbidden if I actually asked permission. And one of my adages has always been, it's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. I'm sure being adventurers, you guys are very familiar with this one.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
But I was 17, and even back then, this is 1978, there were age limitations, which was a bit of a crux. So I did the only honorable thing. I forged my mother's signature.
Okay. What? If you got people into the Army, it's good enough for you.
And went out and jumped. And back then, these are, I call it the bad old days. It's military gear. It's surplus gear. It's the reserve parachutes on your chest. You've got a big old round parachute, really heavy, really clunky, doesn't land very well. The round parachute it's more of a descension thing than steerable.
Right.
And I loved it because I'm kind of sick. I'm kind of crazy like that. And I go like...
Sick isn't bad or like sick?
Sick. But being also a bit on the logical side, I go like, one jump does not a sport make. One of anything. I go like, well, I'm going to make 100 jumps.
Okay.
If I make 100 jumps, by then I'll know whether this is something I want to continue with or not. Well, I was long gone before that 100 jumps came. Now, back to the family thing. Didn't go over so well. But what are you going to do? I wasn't living at home.
Sure.
I was waiting tables and bartending at night. I was packing parachutes during the day. I spent a summer living out of my car. This is when I was still at university, so to save money on a dorm room, I just lived out of my car and slept on a picnic table.
Was this the broken truck?
Don't tell. No, that was later on.
Okay.
That was when I got fancy. Just to save money so I could continue jumping, and I did. And somewhere along the way, my mother found out about this. But I continued on it, and I saw a future in this sport. I not only saw a future for me, I saw the sport evolving in front of my eyes. Yeah. From the round parachutes to when I started, the square or ram air parachutes were just starting, which is what everybody is jumping now. And the equipment was getting better. The reserve parachute came off the chest and onto the back, and I've either now or later I can show you what the equipment looks like. I don't know what's a good segue into that. I guess
no time like the present. Let's see what we got.
This is actually my current rig. The reserve parachute is actually up here. The main parachute is down here. It is deployed by what we call a pilot chute.
Okay.
And this little red dingleberry here, there's actually a little round parachute in here in this spandex pouch, which is attached by a bridle, a piece of nylon webbing. through here to a curved pin. I don't know if you can see the pin here for the camera.
Sure,
the curved pin, which pulls that pin, then pulls out a bag, and my canopy is packed in that bag, and the lines are rubber banded onto there, and they come out, and so I pull the pilot chute, let go of it. That's important. Let go of the pilot chute.
Let go. Okay.
And a few seconds later, I'm under, in theory, a ram air square parachute.
Okay.
Now, the in theory part is if something goes wrong,
Yes.
which it can happen,
Sure.
have no fear.
Have no fear.
I have a jettison device here. It's called a cutaway handle because it cuts the parachute away, not with a knife, but it's a release through, there's all kinds of
There's like
dingles
a
and
yellow-
dangles
there's
here,
like a
and
yellow, like-
3 rings and yellows and stuff. So it will release the main parachute.
Gotcha.
Shiny metal ripcord, old school, goes to the reserve parachute, which has a spring-loaded pilot chute in here
I see.
underneath this flap.
Okay.
And bloom, I'm under, once again, a nice square parachute, slightly different color, slightly fancier. And we have double and triple safety factors. I have what's called a reserve static line here, which is actually attached from my main parachute to my reserve ripcord. So if for some reason I was incapacitated and couldn't deploy this, the actual act of cutting away the main canopy would in turn deploy the reserve.
The reserve.
And then, yeah, kind of cool, huh? They didn't have that when I was started.
It's like they think about these
And
things.
then this little metal thing is the activation for my AAD, which is a automatic activation device for my reserve. It's a teeny tiny little bomb. Well, we don't use the B word in airports, but it has a cutter that actually will cut the reserve loop. This through here, and it's underneath here. You can see it's a little bit of sun damage. It's an old rig. Somebody goes, "Why do you jump a pink rig?" I don't. And they go, "Oh, I guess you do." And that will, if I were completely incapacitated, unconscious, whatever, even if I didn't deploy my main canopy, it would deploy my reserve canopy for me at approximately 800 feet above the ground. There's
interesting.
Yeah. So the equipment, the safety level of the equipment is actually absolutely staggering from when I started.
Right.
And because of that, the sport has become much more user-friendly, and it's user-friendly to smaller people, to women, to older people. I mean, I'm 64 and I'm still skydiving hard. Back in 1978, there weren't any 64-year-old women, like none, who were skydiving hard because it hurt.
Of course, yeah.
You know, it was more of an arrival than a landing. Now with our ram air canopies, our square canopies, you can literally run out a landing. And your accuracy is much improved, so you can actually land where you want, like in the soft grass, as opposed to the trees.
Yeah.
I've landed in a tree a long time ago.
Raise your hand if you've landed in a tree. All right. Got some people
The
in
other two
audience.
skydivers
Yep,
in the
other two
audience.
skydivers. All right. Really, if you haven't landed in a tree, what have you been
I see
doing?
a pattern developing.
Now, you mentioned that your reserve chute would deploy even if you are entirely incapacitated.
Absolutely.
Has that ever happened to you?
It has not.
Okay. Has
Now-
it happened to anyone that you know?
You could do the raise your hand thing.
Raise your hand if you have been fully incapacitated.
Well, not fully incapacitated, but
Incapacitated enough that you could not deploy your secondary chute.
okay.
I was not incapacitated.
Fewer hands this time.
But it have happened to me, yes.
All right, one hand this time.
Yeah.
All right. And what, if you know, what was the story? What happened there?
With him?
Yeah.
He deployed his main canopy low, and it when a canopy opens slowly, we use the term snivel. It sniveled, it opened slowly, and it opened into the firing range of the reserve with the AD.
I see.
So not common, but not horribly uncommon for that to happen. In fact,
Sure.
the sport has changed into raising its opening altitudes just because when the ADs were introduced, that was happening more and more often, and that's where Costin got caught into that.
Gotcha. Okay. And you know, one of the things that we talked about earlier, and one of the things that I think is really shown by that demonstration just now, is your emphasis on safety. You know, I feel like people still think of skydiving as like an inherently dangerous activity, and it is, to be fair. But one of the things you've said, and you really wanted to emphasize, is it's sort of no more dangerous than sitting in your living room if done correctly.
Well, I think that's a wee exaggeration. But what we've got is, with skydiving, you have a lot of perceived danger. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, you're going to jump out of an airplane. Oh my God, you're hurtling towards the ground. What if, what if, what if, what if?
Sure.
And you're all adventurers. You all get this. Whatever your little niche is, what if, what if, what if? But you know how to minimize the what ifs and maximize the why nots. Why not do it correctly instead of what if something bad happens?
Yeah.
And is skydiving dangerous? Absolutely. Is driving a car dangerous? Absolutely. Is mountain climbing, skiing, scuba diving, dancing with polar bears? You know, these are all inherently dangerous things if not done correctly. But if you take the time, take the focus, take the energy, use the correct equipment, again, with any sport, equipment is incredibly important, then the safety margin is increased to make it an acceptable risk.
Sure. And I feel like that's the key, right? Acceptable
Yeah.
risk. But you said something to me that was very interesting. You said you would rather like your main chute not deploy in a jump versus a tire blowout going 70 on the freeway.
Yep, and that's an analogy I use quite often. As I'll ask people, I go, have you ever had a blowout driving? Mm-hmm. And usually almost everybody will raise their hand. They've had a tire blowout on the highway.
If you've had a blowout on the
Has
highway.
anybody lost a tire driving down the highway?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, quite about hands.
Yep.
Can you pull a handle and have another tire come out automatically and replace that one?
I
No?
really want to see people raise their hand for that one.
That'd be pretty handy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And this is an access that we do have. Oh, you guys are looking at the pictures too, huh? Mm-hmm. This is an access that we have too, is that we do have a really good, nothing's foolproof, but is as foolproof as possible,
Sure.
safety option to that. Then there's the standard, what happens if both parachutes fail? What happens if you blow out 3 tires? What if, what if, what if?
Right.
Can it happen? Conceivably. The actuality of having both parachutes fail, even though you read about this in the newspaper all the time,
Right.
They always get it wrong. They probably get it wrong in your sports, in your adventures. Mm-hmm. They always get it wrong that both parachutes don't fail, but there's a huge, huge amount of operator error.
Yeah.
Yeah, sound familiar? Mm-hmm. Yes. And operator error is what happens 99.99% of the time when both parachutes fail.
Right. Sure. And so,
And the best thing we can do is educate the operator.
okay. And so, what are the steps that you take to make sure to like remove as many what ifs as you can?
There are multiple steps. One is equipment-wise, I do a very thorough equipment check before every skydive. Not every day, every skydive.
So if you're doing multiple jumps in a day,
Yeah, I will check, I will make sure that my handles are correct, my 3 rings are correct, my loops are correct, my pilot chute is tucked in before every single jump. I'll also look at other people's equipment. Have they done their chest strap correctly? Mm-hmm. You know, have they missed anything? So I'm always looking at other people's equipment as well.
Right.
You need to be focused. You need to prepare for whatever your skydive is, whether it is a world record, or whether it's a competition jump, or is it a fun jump? Are you just hucking yourself out of an airplane with friends? Are you jumping over water? Do you need to be careful about that? Are you jumping over a pyramid? There's water for you.
Yeah.
You know,
There's a pyramid one. Yeah.
then there's a pyramid while you're at it. Gosh, how does this happen? And that's a very good example. That's me landing, actually, this rig, this canopy, right in front of the pyramids, just easy peasy. But it doesn't happen by accident. One of the things I like telling people, I'm 64 years old, 16,000 jumps, been jumping for 47 years. I didn't get this old by accident.
Yeah. There are no bad bomb makers or no bad skydivers.
It is a very intentional thing that I got this old skydiving and that I continue to skydive and scuba dive and run and climb and ski. Very jealous about the Hokkaido thing. That it's not an accident that I got there.
Yeah.
And it's not an accident for any of you guys either that you've gotten here. So, and that's a very thing. And one of the things also, another segue is our son started jumping. He started jumping at the age of 18.
Mm-hmm. And how long has he been jumping now?
I guess he's 25 now. He's got 450 jumps. He lives.
Oh my gosh!
He lives in Denmark. He actually landed from Denmark about 4 hours ago, and is at probably sound asleep now. we tucked him into a hotel room, but we're going to be jumping for the next 3 weeks here.
Nice.
But having him jump and having me organize and coach him has really changed my views as well, because all of a sudden it's easy to say safety, 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 yada, yada, yada,
Right.
But all of a sudden it's really important.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't important before, but it's kind of a game changer. And if any of you have family, friends, children who engage in your sports or adventure, I think you get that too. Is it kind of changes your attitude on risk management. Risks that you might accept for yourself, you will not accept for someone you love. So is it acceptable for yourself then? And these are decisions you need to make, and for everybody, it's a personal thing.
And those considerations change when you have children. When you
Oh,
have
absolutely.
Someone you really care about coming into this.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think are the traits that have allowed you to stay in this for so long?
Oh,
and do
boy.
this for so long.
Ah, man, I'm not very smart. Tenacity, desire, drive. All of these things, passion, lots and lots of passion.
Absolutely.
Passion for the sport, a passion to be involved in it, passion to compete at the highest level, and then moving beyond competition to organizing, bringing other people together and fulfilling their passions as safely as possible.
Yeah.
So my goals have changed, but it's I have a burn. One of the things that we always keep joking about is I've been trying to quit, but it's not taking. And damn, I keep trying to quit the sport. It'd be the smartest thing to do, but it's not taking.
Day, it's like, it's a terrible day to quit skydiving.
Yeah, and I jumped on Sunday. I made 6 jumps. It was absolutely fabulous with a few
Sunday,
friends.
6 jumps.
Yeah, it was great. And I'll be jumping again on Saturday.
Jesus wasn't the only one who rose on Sunday. You did 6 times, and he only did it once.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
So, like we already mentioned, you were inducted into the Skydiving Hall of Fame back in 2019. What are the considerations that go into that decision? How does someone get into the Skydiving Hall of Fame?
That's a very good question. The International Skydiving Hall of Fame has, as I recall, multiple criteria that you have to be a leader or innovator in the sport in, I believe, 3 different areas.
Okay.
And for me, it was competition. I've competed at the World Meet for Denmark, actually. A women's 4-way team. We placed 6th at the World Meet in 2012.
Okay.
I used to own a gear store, one of the largest, probably at the time, the largest gear store, pro shop for any other words, in the world. So I was like that guy behind the counter at the ski shop or the golf shop or anything, trying on clothes and showing them to them, but learned a lot about the equipment in doing that. And then my organizing as well, both the general organizing for the large world records, the 00s, 1, 2, 3, 400, but then also the Jump for the Cause, which Phoebe touched on, which was a not-for-profit organization I started not by myself. I do nothing by myself. Everybody everybody helps me. We're always a team.
Sure.
But we raised millions of dollars for breast cancer research and awareness. Very important, the awareness problem. Easy to raise money, but to tell people and make them aware. 1 out of 8 women will get breast cancer.
Wow. And so let's talk through some of those like world records. So you said the 100, the 200, and the 400. So what are those? What were those records?
Okay, good question. They were all linked on your belly. You can see a schematic there. That's a women's world record we did in 2014. That's 117, I believe.
I think we have an actual picture of the...
You have a picture of a 300 way. That is the 300. That's the 400 way. That's over Thailand. That's a big military...
Phoebe, there's one that's pointing up where like it's framed by the sky. Can we put that one up so that it's a little easier to see? There we go.
Yeah, that's the 300 way that was done in Eloy, Arizona. Red, white, and blues, as you can see. I was in blue. Costin, you were in black? Okay.
All right.
Were you on that, Alistair?
No.
No? Okay.
Had to be different.
Did I cut you? No. Okay. All right.
Planes did you jump out of to do that formation?
That is a brilliant question because it really makes a difference on how big the airplanes are.
Phoebe, we have a schematic of like a color-coded yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Pull
that
up.
doesn't actually that does show the aircraft. So green was that we're segueing two things. That's a different world record. That's a women's world record that we did in October of this past year. It just got ratified by the FAI. Like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
but and that was 5 Twin Otters, which are 20-place aircraft that we did at Paris Valley Skydiving. To segue back to your question, the 300 way was done out of 13 planes, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Mostly Twin Otters, one, I think, a Skyvan and a King Air. All the way back, and it took almost an hour to rotate those aircraft off the ground. It was a beast of a formation. We were going very high, 20,000 feet, crazy cold. December, Arizona. I was the last out of one of my airplanes. I think I was at the right plane. And I was one of the last out, so I was sitting beside the pilot, and my job was to scrape the ice from the inside of the windscreen.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of those where people go, "How cold was it?" You go, -40, and they go, "What?" You go, "Yeah." Nah. Okay. All right. In freedom units and Celsius, it's the same. Just for those of you guys who didn't get that one.
It's real cold.
Okay.
real cold.
Yeah.
But okay, so you had a big hand in planning those records. So
Yes.
like what goes into planning those? How do you choose who does it? How do you get the planes? And what are the logistics?
Yeah. Well, on planes, I'm actually going to jump one more back.
Please, yeah.
Just said is the 400 way, which we showed one of them in Thailand.
Yeah.
Was done out of 5 airplanes. Now you're military. Can you guess what airplanes we were jumping out of? C-130s, yes, sir. To the smart man in the front.
There we go.
Yeah. So we were jumping military, Thai Air Force military C-130s.
Love it. Okay.
So obviously it's a little easier in theory to wrangle 5 airplanes over 13, but
Right.
wrangling military aircraft, especially in a foreign country, has its own little joys
Fair.
as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But in terms of your question, what goes into it? Well, if you're doing a world record of that size, the planning is literally a year to get designing the formation, that's the easy part. The logistics, though, of selecting the people, making sure that they're the right people for the right slot, right place, right time, to make sure that the drop zone is correct. You have to be able to land that many people safely.
Sure.
A formation that large will have a 400 way. Will have, by the time people track off, move horizontally away from the formation to safely deploy their canopies, they'll be well over a mile, probably a mile and a half from canopy to canopy all the way around in a circle.
Wow.
So that means your landing areas have to be pretty big. And that picture that showed us a lovely runway underneath. I don't know, Phoebe, I don't know if it's a forward or back to that. Yeah, you can see technically that runway underneath there was our landing area. Well, people were landing in golf courses, on parade fields. People were landing everywhere you can imagine. But the trick was you're more or less opened in the same place every time.
Right. Sure.
So you just sort of picked the same place to land in.
Yeah. All right.
And
Just
hitched a
runway.
ride back.
Aim for the runway.
Yeah. Well, I never landed on the airport because I was on one of the outside people, so I tracked farther away. The people who landed on the airport were the center echelon,
Gotcha. Okay.
the center 100 or so.
All right. So, like, how do you decide who goes where in a formation? As one of the more experienced people in that formation, do you go on the outside? Do the newbies go on the inside? Or
Well, that's a very good question because there's a lot to play into it. One of it is biomechanics. More or less by definition, a heavier person will usually be more in the center, and a lighter person will usually be more on the outside. But the more experienced people also need to be in the center,
Okay.
because nothing builds if the center doesn't build. So you want
Right,
talent in
right.
the center.
Sure.
The outside people have more time
okay.
to get there.
Interesting.
So you have back and forth. Now, luckily, we've got biomechanics, but we can also alter things. Like we have jumpsuits. I haven't shown it, but
Yeah, let's take a look at this jumpsuit.
Yay, jumpsuit!
This is
Like
not
you
the
said,
one that
every
you-
other picture shows a red jumpsuit. I was jumping this jumpsuit on the weekend, and I pulled this one out and brought it here instead of bringing my red jumpsuit. But I think it's quite pretty. And as you can see, we have these big old fat sausage grippers on the arms and on the legs.
Those are some sausage grippers.
Those are sausage grippers, but it gives it's a bulletproof grip to hang
okay.
onto, so you don't have to hang
Right.
on to arm and leg.
Sure,
We
okay.
also have these cool and groovy foot coverings.
Oh, they're footies. It's like
They're-
footy pajamas.
We call them booties. But what this does is it gives a line of fabric here, so you have a lot of control area on your legs, which allows you to turn quicker
Right.
and move forward quicker
Sure.
and even stop quicker, where you don't really have, is it upside down now? Yeah. The arms are tight spandex.
Right.
Now, if you're heavier
Mm-hmm.
or husky, big boned, you will have more fabric.
You have buttons in your pockets.
Yeah. So instead of something that's cut like this, you'll have more fabric more like this. You'll have more fabric on the front, a baggier suit, and that slows you down.
Right.
And that will allow a heavier person to more successfully go on the outside. The other thing is just like scuba diving, we use weight belts.
Oh, interesting.
The sports
Okay.
are incredibly similar. There's a huge crossover between the two. So you will literally wear a belt with packets of lead in it, and I will wear, Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, you can see the picture. I'm wearing a weight belt right there.
Is that the green
That's
sort of
the green
strip
thing.
across
Yep.
the middle?
I didn't
Yeah.
bring that, but I'll routinely wear 12, 14, 16 pounds of lead. Most I've worn has been about 30.
Okay.
That's 2 weight belts, and it is no fun. But it allows me to fall faster, to jump into the center of the formations. And when I do my organizing and coaching, I'm usually in the center.
Sure, right.
So I have to fall faster. And when I did both the most recent actually all those women's world records, I was in the center, the very center, what we call the base. So I was letted down for that, to get underneath all the other gals.
Right, because you had to get in place first before everyone else could kind of grab onto it.
Mm. Sometimes we will pull a piece, pull a chunk, so I'll have a linked exit. So 4 or 6 of us grabbing the grippers or even parts of the rig, hut down, out, and we'll exit as a group, just to give a bit of a start on the formation.
Gotcha.
And I know for that, we pulled a 6-way. That's women's world record. That is, I think, the 181-way women's world record, which is the current largest women's formation, all female. I am in it. I am in the center. I am in yellow, I believe. So many records.
It's hard to keep track.
But I was wearing, And then that is the women's world record that we just did in October. And again, I'm in the center. I've got the yellow helmet, this red jumpsuit. You'll see 4 women right in the center, and I'm in there. That's the.
And how many was this one?
This is 64. That's the enter. Everybody has dropped grips right now. Nobody is holding on to each other. Very important for 2 points. And then that's the second point. Everybody moves to a new place in the skydive. Everybody has a different grip. If you were gripped on an arm, you have to have a different grip on the next one.
So when a jump is a 2 grip, you have to you can do the first one on the arm and then the second one on the leg.
Absolutely,
Okay.
and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that going on in there. But that was a 64 way. I think we had probably about 18 different countries represented from all around the world. Obviously, 18 countries all around the world. But very nice. As I said, that was October in Paris. We just did that, and
lovely.
Pretty exciting.
Now, why do the 2 grip thing? Why not just grab onto each other just with the 1 grip? Does it get you more points if you do 2?
Well, it's the rules.
The rules.
Yeah,
Wait,
the
what
rules.
are these rules?
Yeah, there's rules. So, Fédération Aéronautique Internationale (FAI) is the governing body for all aviation-related sports, whether it's balloons or powered paragliders or skydiving.
Fascinating.
And there's rules, and this skydive was called a full break sequential, and the idea that you have to build 1 point, you have to pre-declare it, everybody has to be in the exact correct place, in the exact correct slot as the drawing that you submit to the judges. Then on a key, and I actually deployed a little yellow streamer, it's probably you can see it on those pictures.
Okay.
Everybody drops grips and then comes into the new place, the new grip.
Okay.
And what I had them do is to make sure that nobody jumped the gun or anything, is when we were practicing on the ground, we call it dirt diving. Isn't that cute? So, we'd break, and I'd go break, and I'd throw out the streamer, and everybody goes, skydive Paris, which is where we were. Mm-hmm. And then they could go pick up the second grip. And that was about the amount of time that it took between the first and second points. So getting the photograph of everybody not holding on is a very important enter on that.
Right, because they have the length of time of a Paris.
Yeah. And of course, when you're in free fall, rushing to the ground, skydive Paris turns into skydive Paris.
Right.
But it's still a break. It's still enough.
Sure, yeah. And so, okay. And what would have happened if you hadn't done that? If you hadn't done the 2 grips, if you just done the 1?
Well, it's kind of like Groundhog Day. You get to do it again.
You get to do it again?
And again. And again. And this was a 4-day event, and we got it on the Saturday, not the Sunday, I think. I don't know. Do you remember, Costin? Huh? We got it on day 3, yeah.
Day 3.
But we got it. We started with some smaller stuff, so we didn't go for the record on the first jump, getting people used to it. I think it was the 5th or 6th record attempt, maybe even less. It might have been the 5th record attempt where we actually got the record.
Okay.
And then everybody jumps in the pool with margaritas.
Yes.
Perfect. It'd be rude not to.
Yeah. I mean, insulting, really. So, in addition to these world records, you've also done a lot of competition jumping.
Yes.
Now, what is a skydiving competition like?
Well, it kind of depends. In some ways, they're the same everywhere. The disciplines, there are multiple disciplines in skydiving.
Okay, what are those?
There's a lot of them now. In free fall, it has to do with basically how your body is to the ground. You can do formation skydiving, which means we're flat to the ground. This is after a women's world record in Ukraine, actually. Nice. I was a little excited. I don't know if you could tell or anything.
You hide it well.
Yeah, yeah, it's my poker face. Mm-hmm. But we do formation skydive, which means we make different formations. And the formation skydive is on our belly. Now, you can also be head down,
Okay.
or head up. These
Yeah,
are all
like here?
That's me. That's an example of moving away from the formation.
Gotcha.
We call it tracking because we have to get separation, horizontal separation, to safely deploy our canopies.
Sure, right, okay.
So, yeah, that's me not moving away from the formation. Camera. And then we've got so many topics going on right now. For competition, then you also have a mixed competition, so you have people on their bellies and head down doing formations. That's very cool. And then you have canopy formations where you deploy your canopy right out the door, and then you build different formations with your canopies, which actually my husband Costin won 2 gold medals at the U.S. Nationals last year doing that. He's got his own thing going. But we... And there's accuracy, there's style, there's multiple disciplines. But what I did was 4-way,
Okay.
sequential, and I competed for the country of Denmark.
Okay.
I was living in Denmark at the time,
Sure.
as one does.
As one
It'd be
does.
rude not to. And we ended up
really.
being 6th in the world at the World Championships of Skydiving in Dubai in 2012. Absolute bucket list item for me, amazing.
It's a
The co-
beautiful picture. Can we pull that one up, Phoebe, please?
That's the one over the
Maybe,
palm.
please.
You've got it there. That's also in Ukraine. We're in an AN2 for that one. That's lovely. That airplane and that drop zone have been
Give us-
bombed out of existence.
Give her a second. Sometimes the
Yeah,
system's a
yeah.
little
I'm
finicky.
going down memory lane. Absolutely beautiful drop zone, beautiful airplane, and they neither exist anymore, which is quite tragic. Nope, that's
No,
Seychelles.
it's like there's like a very large palm like on the
Yeah,
ground in the
there- yeah.
background, Phoebe.
That's all red jumpsuits, and there's a cameraman above it. She's going like, oh, they all look alike. Yeah, and I know. But anyway, we'll get back to
We'll
that.
get to
A competition is 10 jumps. It's 10 rounds.
Okay.
You do all this training, years trainings, hundreds of jumps.
Yeah.
Wind tunnel. You can go into the vertical wind tunnel, which some of you guys may have either done or heard of.
Right, yeah,
you
I've
could
done
train in that as well. But hours and hours, thousands of dollars, all this time, 10 jumps. 10 jumps. Decides whether you are the champion of the world or not. And it's very intense.
Sure.
And it's over several days. Can you make 10 jumps in a day? Absolutely.
Right.
Do it all the time. At a international competition, world meet, it's dragged out over several days. So you got a lot of time to think about those jumps. The best thing to do is not worry about the jumps you've done.
Yeah.
That's history. You
Right.
can't change that
They're
shit.
done.
Focus on the next jump.
Yes.
Just the next jump. And put everything into that. And when that jump is done, you can talk about it later. Usually you don't even debrief them. So sometimes you don't even watch them on video. Some competitors don't ever even look at their scores.
They just do it.
I'm not one of those. But you're just going for the next jump.
Yeah.
And one of the sayings we talk about, is when we're coaching or when we're organizing is, take this next jump like it's round 10.
Like it's the last one.
Yeah, like it's round 10.
Leave it all out there.
And this is actually how we should live our lives. You should do everything like it's round 10.
Hell yeah.
Put that much, don't worry about the first 9. Don't worry what's going out after that. Put everything you have into it. All your focus, all your drive, all your attention into being the best you absolutely can be for that 35 seconds, which is the working time for 4-way.
35 seconds.
Yep.
So just
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's over the palm in Dubai. The Danish Divas. And that year we actually landed on one of the arms of the palm.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So what's like going on here? Like talk us through this picture. What's happening here?
That is the person you can see above is our official camera person, and he has a camera on his helmet.
Okay.
I haven't gotten to helmets yet, but this is an example of a helmet. We all wear. They're modeled after motorcycle helmets now. We used to wear. I've got 1,000 jumps with no helmet at all. Yeah.
I was gonna say, did you start wearing a helmet?
Uh-huh.
On your first jumps, did you wear a helmet?
I had a big old bell helmet when I first started, but then when I got cool, which was about 100 jumps. I switched to a leather helmet because that's what was cool. And then when I got really cool, which was probably about 500 jumps, there's nothing more dangerous than a skydiver with 500 jumps, by the way. Nothing more.
Right.
After that, you realize how much you don't know.
Yes.
And and I'm sure, again, you can probably take that into every sport you guys know as well, every adventure you know. And,
It's like your sophomore year. Like, you know a little bit, just enough to, like, hang yourself. But,
because like too bitching to bounce, where bounce is the acronym for a whatever. But, bounce would be when you hit the ground with a high rate of speed with no parachutes out. And the saying is that it's dark humor. I'm sure you know about dark humor. Tell me I'm not the only one, right? Yeah, okay.
He was in the military, so I know.
Yeah. Well, I know the military guys get it. That's where it came from.
Okay, so you have your official cameraman.
So my official cameraman, and then we had a second camera above shooting the entire team.
Totally.
And that is just one of the points that we were doing. It's probably a practice jump, but it could be a competition jump. I actually have no idea. Yeah, I know it's a 9. When we're in competition, we have a series of formations of letters and numbers, where the letters are a single formation and the numbers are 2 formations with some sort of an enter into, kind of like the 2-point skydive that I showed that was a 64-way, where you can do that on a 4-way too.
Yeah, okay.
You can have an enter and you have to do it. So that's that's a 9 right there. And whether it's the top of the 9 or the bottom of the 9, I'm not exactly sure.
So what makes it a 9?
Because it's not an 8.
I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, okay. 7 was already taken.
Yeah, all right.
I have absolutely no idea why that's a 9. It is, but that was an amazing experience in Dubai. I mean, eating off of golden plates for lunch. It was, as you can imagine, if any of you have ever been to Dubai, it is the epitome of over the top, and these world championships were that, and it was I was very blessed and grateful that I had the opportunity to compete there and compete for Denmark, and we were very proud with our performance. We had a very minimal amount of practice jumps, so it was a great experience.
That's incredible. What is skydiving culture like in different parts of the world?
It's surprisingly the same over almost all the world. Skydivers are the same. We have this bond of hurtling ourselves out of airplanes towards the ground.
Sure.
I think it's the same, or looking silly, but I think, it's a very warm and inviting culture. I feel that I could go basically anywhere in the world, and if for something happened, my plane was canceled, my car broke down, if I got on and go like, I am in Romania and I'm stuck and my credit cards are gone, I can guarantee you that I would have doors open, food on the table, a place to sleep, and an answer out. And and we have done that to people at our home as well.
Sure.
In California, I go, you guys need a place? You don't need, you got a place.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Take care. It's a bond, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like, to your point, I think the sense I get is just sort of the community that exists around this sport, like the ability to sort of coordinate 400 people, 100, 200, 400 people for these massive jumps just requires such an extensive network of people. And you all have to be sort of like cool and like willing to work with each other.
Absolutely. The sport has changed it's hard to put a timeline on it, but with the advent of tandem as a way to start jumping, which is a very, has anybody here made a tandem jump? Yeah, I see a couple hands going up. It's a very simple way to make a skydive. You're absolutely making a skydive. You're going out of an airplane,
Sure.
but you're strapped. It's a parachute built for 2. You've got an instructor who's in charge of all the handles.
Right.
You can be as inclusive or as you want, or you can just go along for the ride. And a lot of people go along for the ride.
Right.
And they're skydivers, wow. And they are, but they never come back. They're one-shot wonders. And the sport has tailored itself greatly towards making things easy. And life is not easy, and skydiving is not easy, and extreme sports are not easy. And I think to a certain extent, we are doing a disservice to our community by making it easy. And I'm not saying that it should be the bad old days like I jumped and, give me 10 on the floor and jump around parachute. But I think we are seeing some repercussions for it being, really easy to get into the sport.
So if you were the queen of skydiving, you were the head of the FAI.
No.
Or if you're the queen of skydiving, let's stick with that. If you got to
Not
make
even
all
that.
the rules about the sport,
Oh, okay, I see where you're going.
what would you do what would you change? What would you change about the sport? What would you do to make the sport better in your eyes?
Oh, my. That's a really good question. I'm not even sure if I could answer that. I'd like to see more participation from tandem students, maybe a little more getting involved in not necessarily the history of the sport, but at least the functionality of what they're doing, of the equipment, rather than sign the waiver, pay your money, go through. And there is ground school, and they are doing it. I'm doing a disservice to some schools that do an absolutely fabulous job, but there are some that we call tandem mills, where literally people pay their money, get strapped to an instructor, they land, they get unclipped, the instructor gets another student, they get their T-shirt, they get a pat on the back, and they're in and out in an hour or so. And have they made a skydive? Absolutely. But have they been ingrained to really want to come back and do more? I think not so much.
Sure.
And I would like to see that changed.
Okay. And that would be just like understanding the equipment better, like, really getting an appreciation of, the I guess, attention to detail that goes into doing a jump.
And I would say even more awareness of the risks involved.
Sure. Okay, yeah.
I mean, you have to sign a waiver. You have to sign away your life. You're going to die no matter what. But who signs? Who reads them?
Who reads those?
Does anybody read a waiver? I don't know. Show me where to sign.
I've probably given away my firstborn child at least like 4 or 5 times now at this point in terms and conditions. So what is this picture here now? Apart from just super cool.
It is super cool, and that one was just from March. Is in Panama, an island
like
called
a month ago.
Yeah, I guess that was a month ago. Isla Contadora, which is an island about a 3-hour ferry ride from Panama City. And we have an event there every year. This was the 9th annual one of the PIB is for Pepe's Island Boogie. And it brings an incredible group of humans from all over the world, multiple disciplines in skydiving, a lot of wingsuiting too. I forgot to mention wingsuiting before.
Oh,
That's the squirrel suits. Everybody sees that because Red Bull and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just a stunningly beautiful locale. And everybody just hangs out. It's almost an old school event, as opposed to being snobby and highfalutin, and everybody goes back to their 5-star hotel or eats their mignon. Everybody hangs out and has dinner every night and drinks beer on the beach. And this is the very end of it. This is all the participants of the boogie. I think somewhere in there, I'm not sure what it is Gordy, who is, 81 years old now? One of the hardest core skydivers I've ever met in my life, and he's at Pepe's every year. And that's one of our aircraft. It's a de Havilland Twin Otter coming over the top of us on the beach. Just a stunning picture.
Now, not all jumping off of things is created equal. Like, you don't do wingsuiting, do you?
I have 6 wingsuit jumps.
You have 6 wingsuit jumps. Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say you are a wingsuiter or you've done wingsuit?
I said I have 6 wingsuit jumps. I'm certainly not a wingsuiter, and it was it was so long ago that, like everything else, the instruction methodology, the equipment has changed so much. I actually need to go back and do it again.
Sure.
But
okay.
I took off. I had some shoulder injuries, and sort of got out of wingsuiting.
Sure.
This picture is actually a base jump.
That's what I was going to get to next.
Okay, yeah.
You have done base jumping.
Yeah, I have 33 base jumps. My husband has about 500, so it's hangs and panty, and our son has one off of that bridge. In fact, that's a bridge in Croatia, and beautiful landing area. It's about 450 feet high.
Okay.
But you can see the parachutes out and almost inflated already, and I have just launched.
Right, and
so
like you can see like the platform like
Yeah.
right. I feel like you can see the platform like right there.
Yeah, so you've got tons of time under canopy. It is, again, safe and base jump are rarely terms used in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, oddly that, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But as they go, this is a very straight up jump to make with a very straight up landing area.
Yeah, for sure. And to your point, I feel like base jumping, even more than skydiving, honestly, really has like a poor reputation for being especially dangerous.
Well, it's well earned.
Why do you think that? Okay, why do you think it's well earned?
Well, again, there are many, many layers to this onion. One of them is, and this is more of a skydiver's prejudice, is that base jumping is done with one parachute.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh. And why? Because you're too low to use two.
So if one fails, you're just
Yeah.
yeah.
Now,
You're not going to be able to.
but
use the
the
second.
flip side of that is where when I pack my main, which is very rarely, I have people, but when mains are packed, they are packed sloppily, and they're packed well, but they're packed fairly quickly and not huge attention. When a base canopy is packed, it is packed like a reserve parachute.
I see.
Incredible attention to detail.
Right. Okay.
Every line is taut. The fabric is carefully laid on top of each other. It is packed like a reserve because it basically is a reserve.
It's the only one you got.
Where base jumping has a poor name, poor reputation, is once again operators.
Sure.
The act of base jumping itself, like the act of skydiving itself, is not inherently dangerous. It can be done safely.
Right.
But human beings, being what they are, they tend to take things to the edge. And now, segue back to our wingsuits again. You start base jumping with a wingsuit. It's cool. Whoosh! You can go away. You can get way away from the mountain.
It does look cool.
Yeah, but do we get away from the mountain in our wingsuits? No. We turn right back towards the edge. And you've all seen the videos on YouTube, the proximity flying, where you're flying through valleys,
Oh, yeah.
past trees. If any of you saw the highly forgettable remake of, what was it?
Point Break?
Point Break, yeah. The base jumping scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, they were good.
Yeah, they were.
If you're wondering, a lot of times you see things, you see scuba scenes or skiing scenes, you go, oh my God, this is so hokey. I can't believe they did that. Oh my God, those base jumping scenes were amazing.
Yeah?
They were good, and they were right,
Uh-huh.
and they were scary. Best of the best. Respect.
Yeah.
But this is proximity flying. When you see somebody with a wingsuit come so close that leaves move.
Yeah. Or like right through like the crack in the ridge.
The
or
crack,
whatever.
yes. It's actually known as the crack. Yeah. It's a big thing, but there is zero margin for error.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zero. And because of that, yes, the fatality rate for base jumping is higher than skydiving. The fatality rate for proximity flying in base jumping significantly higher
Yes.
than just regular base jumping.
Sure. Huh. Okay, fair
And
enough. That makes sense.
humans being humans, if there's a way to make something more dangerous, they'll figure
We'll
it
go
out.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
There's somebody right there, right now,
Yep.
probably with a Red Bull hat on, trying to find out a way to make something more scary and dangerous.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some laughs out in the audience. They know. Yep. Makes sense to them. I wanted to talk about a couple more things before we open it up to questions from the audience. First being, I want to touch a little bit more on your nonprofit, Jump for the Cause. So what was the sort of inception of that, and sort of what are you all like, is it still active? Can we, still get involved?
It is not active. We closed it down. The inception was actually not me per se. It was one of my partners, Mallory Lewis of Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop. Does that ring a bell with anybody there? Yeah. Well, Sherry's daughter Mallory has almost 1,000 jumps.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, very, very avid skydiver and very passionate skydiver. And she and her husband at the time talked me and my husband at the time, also sounds familiar, right? Extreme sports, into putting together a fundraiser for a women's event. Mallory's mother, Sherry, passed from uterine cancer, but her uterine cancer was metastasized from breast cancer. So this was, breasts are basically prettier than uteruses. So we decided to go with breast cancer. Yeah, you got to sell it. You got to sell it,
Fair.
So we decided to go with breast cancer as a way to promote it. Every woman had to raise a certain amount of money.
Sure.
We had colored, Jump for the Cause, that was one of them. Yep, we had colored jumpsuits set in, which is another fun thing when you're trying to organize something when everybody has the same colored jumpsuit on. Oh, now it gets fun trying to find your slot.
That's fair.
That's why I go in the center. I'm not stupid.
Make everyone go around you.
Yeah, they have to find me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, so this is that jump. And how many people were in this jump here?
That, I think, is the 151.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then we did a 181 as well. We did a 118, 131, 151, 181. I believe and you're going, right now you're going like, why the weird numbers?
I mean, I assume that's just how many people you could get to show up.
That's what we got. So we didn't tie ourselves into a specific 300 or 400 number. It was, who are the women who are the best in the world? I think we had 30 countries represented.
Wow.
Who are the best in the world, who want to perform and want to be part of these epic events. And sometimes we did have a bench, people on the ground ready to take slots as necessary. Injury, illness, failure to perform. Everybody can have a bad day.
Right.
But having a bad day on a world record event, not a good thing.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to go do the very, very difficult job of setting somebody down, telling them that they're going to have to watch the next skydive and then putting somebody else in that slot. So we ended up with different numbers as a result. And the 181, actually the one with that was, we had one gal who was just a fabulous skydiver who had been sick all week. And on the very last day, she goes, I'm ready to jump. I'm going like, okay. So get into a meeting and we're like, Vicky's ready to jump. What do we think? We're going like, well, she was great before, so tagged her onto the back of one of those lines, and she was a world record holder.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, rock on.
And then, so last thing I want to talk about is, as with all adventures and adventurers, none of us would be here without the incredible support systems that we have, helping us helping us do these things. And you mentioned earlier that everything you do is part of a team. So I just want to talk for a little bit about, your family, your parents, your husband, your son, your teams that have helped you, have almost 16,000 jumps.
Well, we don't have enough hours in a day for all the people who have helped me to get here.
Yeah.
But I can come back. Oh, yeah, that's a picture of us again. From the start, my mother, once she got over it, you know how moms are, she actually, she'd go, 100 jumps, isn't that enough? Isn't it time to quit? 500 jumps, isn't that enough? Isn't it time to quit? But then the switch changed, and all of a sudden, probably because I actually started winning shit, she became proud of me. And that was very cool. And I'd go to visit her, and she was in Vero Beach, which is where she was, and she'd go like, "This is my daughter, the skydiver," or the little days would come up, "Is this the one that's the skydiver?" And she'd go, "Yeah." My sister would be like, "Oh." But my sister,
I was like, your sister does
my
stuff
sister,
too.
my sister is a ski patroller. She's EMT. She's a lifeguard. She's got her own jam going, and also obviously just amazing and has her own life going. Not a skydiver, but doing
Everything
her
else,
thing.
it sounds like.
Yeah. Now whatever that gene pool, that bucket that came and got sprinkled livery over us both to doing the batshit crazy stuff. But my mom actually made a skydive, and she was 80 years old, and she went like, "If it's this important to you," I mean, mind you, this is a long time after I started. She goes, "I think it's something a mother should do. I should make a jump too." Yeah. I know, and now I'm trying not to cry because it was really, really cool. She's passed now. But she went and did a tandem jump. And I and my husband at the time, there's only been one other, I make it sound like more.
A different one.
Yeah, it's not a different one each time. We went and docked on her, so we were in free fall, docked on her. And we have the picture in our house. And she had the video and had the picture, and she, said she would never, ever, 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 ever do it again. But she was really happy to do it, and that meant a lot to me. Absolutely incredible. Obviously, having, I live in an echo chamber, sport-wise, and I think many of us do in terms of extreme sports, is we're surrounded by the people who share our passions. So I have these people around me, but to have my husband also share my passion. We travel the world organizing at skydiving events, all these things over Seychelles and Maldives and Panama. He is also part of that crew, also working. Now our son's got 450 jumps, medaled in the Danish four-way championships last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What are you going to do? And in my, the DZO, drop zone manager of Paris Valley Skydiving, Dan Brodsey-Chenfeld, absolutely amazing, has been one of my partners for many years in organizing. Melanie Knatzer, also at the drop zone, owner of the Paris drop zone. I've too many people, and if I keep naming names, I'm going to piss people off. Because the more people I name, the more people I'm going to forget to name.
Absolutely.
But you're all very important to me, and I couldn't have done it without your support, and I can tell you that, because it is my passion, and it's what I did. One of the things where we started talking, and you had said, was that the truck you lived in? My first year at Paris, when I moved to Paris, was 1982, I penniless skydiver, lived in the back of a broken down pickup truck in the parking lot of Paris for the first winter there, which I found out after the rains came was in a puddle. But you do what you do. Yeah. And this allowed me to save money and follow my passion. And you'll see similar stories throughout the skydiving world, and I think throughout any of the people on the wall here. They all did what it took to follow their passion. And it's never easy, but it's worth it.
Things worth doing never are.
Yeah.
Or else everyone would do them. Well, Kate, thank you so much. And I'd love to open it up to questions from the audience if you have a few more minutes. So if you have a question for our speaker, raise your hand and we'll get you a mic.
So I'm going to start with the question. Was there ever a time you went, I shouldn't be doing this?
That's a very good question. Like heebie-jeebies?
Yeah, you committed to something and you're standing there and you're going, this isn't a good idea.
I've never... Yes and no. I mean, I've done jumps where I wasn't necessarily enjoying the moment. For whatever reason, either I didn't feel that good physically or mentally, or I wasn't particularly happy with the conditions we were jumping in. That would probably be more as like it's too windy or something like that, but I'm still in a position where I'm jumping in it. But that's it. I would say yes, but it's almost always conditions, meteorological conditions, clouds or wind, rather than just being unhappy or having the heebie-jeebies. Does that make sense?
I mean, because I would assume a lot of it is you're standing there and it's your confidence in yourself to be able to do what you're going to do. And maybe there's a commitment you made to do it, and you're going, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I wish I hadn't committed to do it.
No, not really. I'm pretty good about that. If I commit to something, I'm pretty good. I mean, sometimes I'm happy when things are done.
Sure.
But absolutely. But no, if I commit to something, I'm pretty much all in.
Okay, good. Questions? Here we go.
Every time we had one too many tequila sodas before.
What does a perfect jump feel like for you?
Oh, what a great question. If you're in free fall, you actually don't feel like you're falling. I'm going to segue back a bit. You feel like you're like laying on a mattress of air. It's very comfortable. And on a perfect jump, I'm happy. I'm in the zone. I know whatever my job is, whether it's four-way or I'm over the water or I'm doing it, I got everything dialed in. I know exactly what's going on. I can predict the future. I know how the jump's going to go, and I'm smiling, or even laughing. And it's the same way. And once I deploy and I'm under canopy, it's just like, yeah, I got that. You know, this was exactly what we planned, exactly what we worked out. And quite often you get that on world record jumps or record jumps, not even. It doesn't have to be a world record. And you know it's done. You know it's complete.
Yep.
It's almost electric. You can feel it, whether it's 60-way or 400-way. You know it's there. And you just, when you're under canopy, you're just screaming. You're so happy. And it's just best drug in the world. There's cheaper ones out there, trust me.
Hey, I've got to give you credit for jumping rounds early on. That's awesome.
I got almost 100 round jumps.
That's great.
Yeah, I used to be taller.
All the relative work you do, I'm wondering if AI is changing any of that on your planning on bigger and bigger groupings. Like, how do you do your actually plannings for the really large numbers?
You said relative work. How did you know that?
Paratrooper.
Okay. All right. Because I don't think I've used that term since I've been here. Relative work is what we call because we're falling relative to each other. Or it's when you go home for Thanksgiving, but relative work. So your question, AI. I don't think it's changing anything yet because what we're doing is a physical thing. We're jumping out of airplanes. Where I am seeing it is in verbiage, which I think we're seeing. It's endemic. You see things written and they're not quite right. Now, what I think is going to happen, and it's not quite there yet, is, and I think you'll see this in everything, is AI will be taking over stunt work because they're going to be able to, you know, right now, 6 fingers, 2 heads, not quite ready there, especially for something high speed, high performance like skydiving. But I can see AI being used to do simple stunts, and instead of stuntmen and stuntwomen.
So two questions. One,
Did that answer your question? I'm sorry. Not quite. I'm sorry. I didn't
Not
mean
quite.
to
No.
interrupt, but
I was really more just fascinated about the planning of the patterns themselves, because all the changes from your grips and.
we're not there yet. But I bet I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's out there working on a program where you can say. Chat GPT, give me a 64-way formation, full break sequential, 6-way base, 3 points, and show me what it is. And I think it'll be there, but we're still going to have to execute it. Right. That would just be in the planning. But I think that will save many hours of agonizing over with drawing little stick figures on paper. Did that answer your question? Yes, it did. Okay.
So 2 questions. One is if you could talk a little bit about trying to survive a streamer, assuming if your parachute doesn't open completely. And number 2 is almost every aviation-related sport has alcohol rules, like 12 hours bottle to throttle. And yet almost every scuba diving, is a serious drinking culture where you make your friends can you talk about the culture and how tightly you observe it, and just reflect on risk takers in general?
Okay, two completely different things. Let's go to streamer. Streamer is old school because it is, by definition, a streamer is a round parachute that does not deploy, and it's just like this, streamering. We don't have streamers with square parachutes. There are a host of different malfunctions we can have, but streamers is not one of them. What you would do in any case, if you had modern gear, you would jettison the main parachute, and then it would either automatically deploy the reserve, or you would deploy the reserve yourself. And that would go for any kind of malfunction you have. But like streamer's old school.
So it never gets fouled up, or it half opens?
Oh, there's malfunctions. What we call them is spinning malfunction. Is be the most common with a square parachute where lines are tangled. The parachute goes into a turn, quite violent, spinning, and it gets worse and worse and worse. But again, you jettison the main, and as needed, deploy the reserve. So it'd be the same procedure, regardless. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I guess if your chute somehow messed up and you've got a spinner and anything else, is it slowing you enough that you can survive the impact? 'Cause
Nope.
the old idea was, you're
Nope.
trying to get that thing open. And
Nope. Nope.
You still bounce.
Nope. Yeah, we do not land malfunctions, right?
So it's not even possible, or
Well, I mean, there's different levels. If you have a very, very large parachute and it's a very, very slow turn, yeah, you're going to walk away from it, or limp away for it, or be carried away from it.
Sure.
But basically, any kind, as a rule, any kind of malfunction, you jettison immediately. You get rid of it. It's these things are in here for a reason. We trust them. We use them. We don't land malfunctions.
I just keep thinking if your reserve screws up, what do you do then?
Well, then you got the rest of your life to think about your decision-making processes. But again, the reserves. It's a very infinitesimal time where there's a true double malfunction. Operator error almost always plays into that when you hear both parachutes failed to open. It's not just a case of that. Something's gone on, and it's usually the person in front has made a mistake. I saw you, but 1 second. Your segue into alcohol, recreational activities, yes, like scuba diving. It's not like it was in the 80s or 90s. The sport has calmed down quite a bit. Scuba diving has not. But yes, the 8 hours from bottle to throttle, it's 8 hours, is the FAA is the rule. You don't have to do a breathalyzer or anything, but if somebody is stinking like beer, if they're weaving towards the airplane, they're gonna get pulled. And it's the sport has changed. It's a clean sport now, ish.
Cleaner.
Yes.
Sort of a follow-up to that. In 47 years in the air, how many times have you cut away a malfunctioning main and gone to your reserve?
I actually don't keep track of those things. I'm a very much in the present person, and I don't keep things. Probably around 13-ish.
I was going to say, so it's happened enough that you've lost count, or because it seems like it would be a
No, it's just not one of those things that I dwell on. My last cutaway was probably 3 years ago, and it was actually a misrigged situation. I had to talk to the person who packed for me, Costin, because he does a different discipline, my husband, with the canopies, where you open the canopy right away and push them together. They have a much higher rate of it's intentional malfunctions, I guess, where it's called a wrap, where the parachutes will wrap around each other.
Oh,
so
okay.
you've got 27 cutaways now. Yeah.
And I only have 6,500 jumps, so it's pretty fast.
You're really proud of it.
Quick question.
Yes.
Do you carry a knife in case the parachute doesn't jettison?
I do have a knife. It's on here somewhere, I think, unless it fell off in the car. Oh, it may have fallen off. Oh, you see that? It's supposed to be right there. I do have a knife, but it's not really a practical situation to cut through this type 8 nylon with a teeny tiny, this webbing with a teeny tiny little knife. Where the knife would come in handy would be cutting a line or fabric. If you had, for some reason, a canopy line, yours or somebody else's, wrapped around you, that's where you could use a knife, but you can't really. This cutaway situation with the 3-ring system and the handle, it's smooth as silk. It's super easy to pull, and you are gone. So that works. So the knife would just be to cut a line or fabric, again, if you needed to. Again, more into the discipline that Costin does, where they intentionally ram parachutes into each other.
Well, just be careful when you're sitting down in the car later. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to everyone in our live audience. And for the folks at home, if you liked what you saw here tonight, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video. It helps us out a ton. And if you're in LA, why not come on by? We do this every single Thursday, and you can meet our amazing speakers in person and ask your questions from our live audience. That's going to do it for us here at the Adventurers Club. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time off the beaten path. Have a good night.
Thank